What's going on, guys? Bellator 272 preview hitting down in Uckensville, Connecticut. Familiar stomping ground for Bellator, and a lot of good times have been had in old Uckensville. So we got an 11-fight offering. Obviously, this is on the Friday night before the UFC, so hopefully we can use it to do a little bankroll building prior to the big event, or, you know what I mean, let's mix up a little bit of Friday and Saturday night tickets together. So similar to the UFC, actually a good amount of dogs on this card. Hopefully we can either spot them up, hit that plus money, or spot them up, know who the apple pie shitter is, and if we are going to play parlays, hopefully have them lower on. As we do with Bellator, we start off with the main fights before the prelims, and as opposed to prelims before the main fights, like we do for Dog or Pass, simply because, not as many people care. So if you're only going to watch this video for 7 or 8 minutes, might as well get the fights that you might actually give a shit about. Sergio Pettis versus Kyoji Horiguchi for the Bellator bantamweight title. Horiguchi is about a -165, -170 favorite. Comeback on Sergio Pettis, about +145. Listen, this is the unique opportunity that you can have a current champion for the underdog status. You don't really see that a whole lot, and that's what you're getting here. Sergio Pettis is defending. Horiguchi technically is also the Bellator bantamweight champion. He won it over Darian Caldwell like a year and a half, 2 years ago, but he's vacated since then. Sergio's won the vacated title. And honestly, I've been a guy that's just shit on the Pettis brothers from the get-go. I'm not a big fan of Duke Rufus. I don't really care for Rufus sport. There's been a couple cool fighters that come out of there, like Paul Felder or Bilal Muhammad, but for the most part, just not a fan. And with Anthony, he's got that pretty boy mantra to him. He hurts his hand, he wants out. He hurts his knee, he wants out. He's just not my kind of guy. He's a lot of flash, not a whole lot of substance. Sergio, meanwhile, I think the persona was that he was just like his brother. When he first came to the UFC, it's like, can't help but root against this guy. But, man, I give him his dues. When you look at wins that he has, he's got a win over John Moraga, former UFC title challenger. He's got a win over Brandon Moreno, current UFC champion. Losses to Henry Cejudo, UFC champion. Beat Joseph Benavidez, 3-time UFC title challenger. Yusir Formiga, Rob Font's headlining the UFC card against Jose Aldo on the Saturday. That's his last loss in the UFC. Wins his last fight in the UFC, and they release him. So as far as runs go, dude, his losses are to Rob Font. What? Yusir Formiga, Henry Cejudo. Shit, man. I'm going to give you a pass there. Yeah, he lost to Ryan Benoit and Bruce Leroy way before, but he's a 21-year-old kid when he signs to the UFC. Green. And really did fight the best guys in the UFC, as far as I'm concerned. Signs with Bellator, moves up to 135 pounds. Didn't really know how that would go for him. I didn't really think he's the biggest bantamweight going, so maybe he's going to be a little bit undersized, but my God, he's looked good. The winner over Albert Kasakian, okay, that was expected. The winner over Ricky Bandonai. Ricky Bandonai's pretty legit. Good grappler, good striking. First guy to really expose James Gallagher and put him in his place, and he just walked right through Bandonai like he wasn't even there. Now, people who know Ricky know he's a solid talent. It was a great performance out of Sergio. Then he gets the Bellator title fight against Juan Archuleta. He comes in as a +150 underdog. Honestly, I thought that was not generous in the sense of he should have been a bigger underdog. Juan Archuleta's bona fide. The guy wrestled collegiately. He trains at TJ Dillashaw. He trains at Cub Swanson. Guys rave about this guy's athleticism. Can fight 5 rounds all day. Sergio pitched a perfect shutout against him. He stuffed all the takedowns. He outstruck him. He dissected him. He saw everything coming. He's smooth. Kid's only 28 years old. I feel like he's really coming into his own. And as opposed to his brother, who I just flat out don't like, I like a lot that I'm seeing out of Sergio. The one knock on him back in the day is guy's not a wrestler, right? Similar to his brother, they have the same kryptonite, take him down. Seeing him stuff out those takedown attempts by Archuleta, very key here. Because against Kyoji Horiguchi, excellent striker in his own right. I think the difference is that Horiguchi really is the natural flyweight. The guy's only 5'5" with a 66-inch reach. So effectively, he's going to be giving up a couple inches in the height department, 3 inches in the reach department. And that's going to be key because of how good Sergio Pettis' jab is. Now, when you watch Kyoji, he has that karate background, and he does move laterally extremely well. But a lot of the time, he wants to close the distance. He's just darting in. And against a lesser opponent, he's so fast, he's going to dart in, he's going to land combination punches on you. But against Sergio, shit, man, the guy's a smooth operator, and he's got good sight out there. He can see things. So I just feel like he's going to see the bull rush coming through the pocket. He's going to step out. He's going to effectively use the jab. He's going to chew him up. It's going to be a fun fight. It's going to be a good fight. But Pettis' cardio looks solid this last time out. And as far as Kyoji Horiguchi is concerned, he fights Kaya Sakura. He gets knocked out. He takes over a year off. He fights Kaya Sakura again. He knocks him out. He takes a year off. Now he's coming in here against Sergio Pettis. Really, the guy's been fighting about once a year. Matt Brown out of ATT is huge on this guy's skill set, but has admittedly said he's battling a lot of injuries. And I think that layoff, those lulls, being only fighting one time, really he hasn't not fought beyond one round in 2 years, all right? And that was when he fought Darian Caldwell. Not finishing Darian Caldwell, also a bit of an issue considering how bad his gas tank is. So I don't, it's not that I'm trying to write off Horiguchi. He's a supreme talent. It's shit, man. I'm going to give Sergio Pettis his due here. So I'm actually going to take the underdog in the main event and go with Sergio Pettis on that plus 145. Emmanuel Sanchez versus Jeremy Kennedy. Currently line is Emmanuel Sanchez minus 180. Depending on your book, you can get him as high as minus 200. And Jeremy Kennedy about plus 155 to the plus 160 range. I know on the preview show for Dogger Pass yesterday, I mentioned that I thought that Jeremy Kennedy would be a decent play. I revisited that today. I decided to rewatch a part of everyone's fights once again. And I don't know how much I feel for it. This one's really going to come down to ring IQ. Jeremy Kennedy can win this fight with the proper game plan. I'm just not 100% sure that he's going to fight that game plan. Said game plan would be grapple, 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 grapple. You need to get on Sanchez early, often. You need to shoot the takedowns. You need to pursue the grappling. You need to get him down. When Kennedy does that, he's got great top control. Look at some of his fights. Let's not waste too much time here. But his last MMA fights, Adam Borix, Bellator 256. First round, he decides to stand in front of Adam Borix. Why? I don't know. Borix is an excellent striker out of the Blackzilian camp with Henry Hoof. Like, why would you want to just stand with him exclusively? I don't know, but he loses the first round. And in the second round, he again does the exact same thing, and he loses the second round. In the third round, he finally shoots the takedown. And what do you know? He gets the takedown. He did some decent work on top. 2 of the 3 judges gave him the third round, but he still lost at 29-28 because he didn't even pursue takedowns in the first. So Chael Sonnen brings him into submission underground 25 against Edwin Najmi, who is an absolute wizard on the ground. This guy is a young buck, very, very talented grappler, and going to be making waves in the jiu-jitsu world. Jeremy Kennedy was a massive underdog stepping up to the plate against a legitimate jiu-jitsu practitioner, and shit, man, Kennedy looked good. Kennedy stuffed out all of his takedown attempts. They went to overtime. In overtime, Kennedy still looked pretty good. I mean, had a lot of control on him, and then boom, Najmi catches him in an armbar. Or sorry, it was a rear naked choke in overtime. You get to start on the guy's back. Shit, tough go, but gave a great account of himself. You see that even Chael and everyone was very surprised. Like, Kennedy's an elite level grappler. And I do believe he is an elite level grappler. He's out of Extreme Couture right now. He spent some time at Team Alpha Male. He can win this fight if he decided to go out there and purely use his grappling. I just don't know that I trust the ring IQ because the game plan would have been the same thing against Borix. He's young, he's green, he's not a great grappler. Take him down. And to wait until the third round to do it is a bit of a head scratcher. Manuel Sanchez, meanwhile, his last fight, Mads Burnell, it was that. Takedown, top control. Sanchez is supremely talented. I mean, he's a great scrambler. He's a good striker. He's a good grappler. He's got weak takedown defense. It's been his problem throughout his entire Bellator career. You can take him down. He's in close fights. He's in competitive fights, but his takedown defense is soft. When he's on the ground, don't get me wrong, his grappling's good. He'll throw up triangles. He'll throw up arm bars. He'll scramble. He'll get back up, but then he gets taken back down again. Kennedy could go with that game plan. Just don't know if I trust him to actually do it. So Sanchez is a little more proven. He's fought in high-level guys. He's like a Bellator mainstay. And, you know, honestly, if Kennedy tries to stand with him, it's going to be striking exchanges towards Emmanuel Sanchez. If Kennedy does shoot the takedowns, it's not like Sanchez is totally a fish out of water. It's that if Kennedy was to solely stick to the grappling, he's got an avenue to victory. We don't generally see him stick exclusively to grappling. And that's why I think Sanchez ultimately does pull it off. So I'm going to go with the underdog in the main event. Co-main event, I may have changed my mind a little bit and talked myself into a Emmanuel Sanchez bet. But they'll be lower on the parlays and on the playlist because I don't really trust it all that much. Jared Scoggins versus Josh Hill. The line is currently even money, minus 110 each side. I got to go with Jared Scoggins here. Josh Hill, this actually definitely makes me feel old. So I was training at this gym, Portland's MMA, Georgetown, Ontario. Got a couple of buddies there. And there's a fighter at the gym, Vito Adanasi, and he's making his pro debut. We are, years 2009, right? You know, it's MMA is actually outlawed in Ontario. You can't fight in Ontario, which is where we're from. So we get a bunch of guys from the gym, pack it on up, and we drive down to Gatineau, Quebec, right across the border. It's quite literally like 5-10 minutes across the Ontario to Quebec border. So we go to Quebec. We think Vito's the man. You know, he kicks all of our asses. We're a bunch of high school kids. Like, he kicks all of it. The guy's tough, man. The guy's a street fighter, and he comes to the gym. He's real strong. And he's fighting Josh Hill. Who the fuck is Josh Hill? I don't know who the hell Josh Hill is. He's also 0-0. He's out of Stony Creek. I don't know anything about him. Our boy is going to walk right through this guy. So we get him in the stands. There's nobody at this card. It's a lowly regarded MMA event. Even though it was pretty dope. Like, Shoni Card was on the card. It was a pretty sick event. And there's actually a few notable names actually came from it. But at the time, So the fight starts. It's an early prelim, so really there's nobody there. Me and my buddy Jay were like, yeah, go Vito. This guy's right next to us. They're like, fuck you, Vito. Go Josh Hill. So we're like, oh, I bet you a beer. I bet you a beer. And Josh Hill proceeds to smoke our boy. Shatters his orbital. Beat him up pretty good. He was a hockey fighter. It was his pro MMA debut. He was switching to MMA. He was a young up-and-coming prospect. He's 35 years old now. Looking back, like, holy shit, man. Where's all my time gone? But Josh Hill's had an incredible run. He was the top-rated Canadian bantamweight. He defeated Jesse Arnett, who was the other guy in the discussion. He was on The Ultimate Fighter, but Dana didn't like his style. And that's kind of what's held him back, is his style. He's very talented. If you see him physically, I mean, the guy's an absolute specimen. Excellent shape. He's got good cardio. I mean, he fought Marlon Moraes to a very, very tough battle when Marlon Moraes was still Marlon Moraes, He's a 2-time World Series of Fighting title challenger. But a lot of his fights go to decision. And for a guy that comes from a hockey background, he never wrestled in high school. He never wrestled in college. He's not a wrestler. As far as jiu-jitsu goes, I don't even know if he's ever put a gi on before. I would say his grappling is probably brown belt level, but not a good brown belt level, not like a competitive brown belt level. Just, he obviously knows what he's doing on the ground, but he's not a grappler. He's not a wrestler. As far as the striking goes, he does have some good power, but the power doesn't materialize into finishes. And there's not a whole lot of combination punching out of him. It's mostly one and done. Big right hand, big left hand, big uppercut, swinging stuff. I'll admit he's spent some time working with, notable camps in the United States, and it's improved his game overall. He's definitely a good generalist. He's definitely a good mid-level gatekeeper type guy, but he's never going to get over the hump. And now at 35, again, the realization, holy shit, the guy's 35 now. Like, I'm pretty sure when he was like 21 years old when I first seen him fight. Fuck, where does the time go? I think we've seen the best of him. There's no real marginal improvements there. And whether he's still able to go out there and get a victory, it's like these greasy, tight-knit, hold the guy up against the cage type victories. Jared Scoggins, meanwhile, is the younger brother of UFC veteran Justin Scoggins. And Justin Scoggins, Paul Shaw to be the first one to tell you, has got the skills, man. This guy is skilled. And for whatever reason, you slap on the slightest bit of a submission attempt and he taps. Don't know what it is. Could be a mental block. But Justin Scoggins taps as soon as the pressure gets on him. As far as the skills goes, man, beautiful karate. He spent some time with Wonderboy Thompson. He's out of Carolina. And just, excellent footwork. His offensive wrestling, pretty tight. Power tight. Combination tight. Cardio pretty decent. Submission defense is absolute dog shit. It's what held him back. Jared Scoggins, I see a lot of the same stuff. Moves just exceptionally well. I mean, you see the same karate background, but his ability to gauge the distance and come in and out of the pocket is awesome. And that what's going to work really good here is if the fight stays at range for him versus Hill, he's just going to dictate the action in the range and then just beat him with a punch. Be the longer guy, be the faster guy. If Josh Hill decides to pressure him forward, the guy moves so well linearly, he's just going to counterpunch, move sideways, get out of the way. Now, if Josh Hill was to eventually corner him up, put him up against the cage, Scoggins' takedown defense, just like his brother, is not bad, man. The guy's strong. The guy's obviously worked on it a lot. He's got good cardio. Only maybe one thing I could knock on him is his last fight, he wins the CFFC bantamweight title. Prior to that, he was fighting at flyweight. So one would imagine he's probably a little bit smaller than Josh Hill. He shows a win over Cody Durden, fights in the UFC now at 125. He's got a win over Juan Puerta, who won in the Contender Series. Didn't give him the contract, though, but stud at 125. He's got a win over... I guess it was pretty much just them. I guess Thomas Vasquez is not too bad his own right. And in that title fight for CFFC, he looks awesome. He dominates him. He wins all the striking exchanges. He routinely takes him down. His cardio looks on point. His grappling looks on point. Seriously good performance. Bellator scoops him up right away, and then Toby Misic misses his weight. So they call off the fight because his opponent misses weight. Then Magomedov, Scoggins pulls out. So they rebook him against Brian Moore. Then against Brian Moore, he tests positive for COVID, and now he's been sitting on the sidelines for 15 months. So maybe that would be the one worry, is that he has not fought in over a year. He's coming off COVID. He's coming off an injury prior to that in the Magomedov fight. So a little bit of ring rust, a little bit of inactivity. If this fight goes into some deeper waters, maybe it becomes taxing on him. But that being said, I honestly don't think it matters. Like against Thomas Vasquez, he went 4 rounds. CFFC only does 5-round fights if it's a split after 4, but he dominated all 4 rounds. He showed he could go 4, at least in that fight. Pretty easy breezy. And I mean, he's only 26 years old. So, a 35-year-old guy sits on the sidelines for 15 months. It might take him a little bit to get going, but this kid's been in the gym the entire time. His brother is a top-level talent who he has at his disposal. Hannah Scoggins is another top mixed martial artist. She married into the family. It's not like she's a sister or anything, but he's surrounded himself with top-level guys. I really like what I see out of his skill set and his movement. And I hate to go against two Canadians here back to back, but I think Kennedy's got a better chance. He's got a legit path to victory. Hill, I'm not seeing it. Wrestling would be the path to victory. I don't see it being there. Last but not least, let's say Scoggins was like his brother and he was a tap artist. Josh was not tapping anybody, right? So I think Scoggins has got this one. Johnny Eblen versus Collin Huckbody. We're actually going to cruise right through these next two just because we obviously missed the line. Eblen was a 10-1 favorite right off the get-go. Now he's currently a 16-1 favorite. He's a stud collegiate wrestler. He's undefeated. Sometimes they call him Diamond Hands. Sometimes they call him Korean Canelo. I like that one better. Does actually look like Canelo. Regardless, like, striking's not even his primary art, but you can see he's really been working on it. Heavy hands, physically strong guy. Collin Huckbody, pretty limited. He lost to Canadian Aaron Jeffries 2 fights back. Pretty uninspiring performance, I think. I'm not a huge Huckbody guy. I am big on Johnny Eblen, but the line's way out of proportion, minus 1,600. I'm obviously not calling the upset. Nothing I can tell you here on this one. And then if you look at Alexander Shabliy, quite literally yesterday, Paul and I talked about Bellator picks right at the end real quick, and I says minus 550. This is the guy, and literally overnight he balloons out to a minus 1,000. Again, I would have to agree with it. The guy looks very good. I mean, he's looked solid on the Russian regional scene. His win over Adriano Martins, even though it was on a great fight, that's a solid win. And then, he makes his Bellator debut against Alfie Davis. Alfie Davis, pretty talented guy, to be honest with you. Again, you see Shabliy, he's very well-rounded within himself. Bobby King, meanwhile, good grappler, but 37 years old. He's coming off a split decision win over Nick Newell, who's quite literally got one hand. It wasn't an uninspiring fight. He's a little bit older. His best path to victory is he's got a good armbar. He's decent off his back. Again, he is going to throw up submission attempts. He's a good enough jiu-jitsu guy, but I really don't see it happening. I mean, Shabli's fought in decent level of competition, and the last guy that finished him, it was about 8 years ago. Also, I remember he fought Ryan Quinn. They brought Ryan Quinn into Russia, but he just head kicked him 19 seconds in. Like, Ryan Quinn's never been knocked out. I don't think he's ever been finished other than this one time. Very durable guy. He's currently a coach at American Top Team, and Shabliy beat right through him. He has good striking, and on top of that, he can grapple. He's kind of the whole package. Minus 550, he was top ticket parlay material. Minus 1,000, I don't know what we can do with it. It'll probably be top ticket parlay material, but we missed the line is quite frankly how it's going down. Kai Kamaka versus John DeJesus. Kai Kamaka is a minus 200 favorite. John DeJesus plus 180. Shit, this should be Kai Kamaka, right? I'm a little bit worried about the size of John DeJesus, considering he's got like a 6 or 7 inch reach advantage. He's a very tall guy. Kai Kamaka is 5'7", John DeJesus 6 foot. Kai Kamaka has a 69-inch reach, not all that good. DeJesus has a 76-inch reach, so I think it's a 7-inch reach advantage. All that's uninspiring, but man, let's give Kai Kamaka a break. So he wins his debut against Tony Kelly in a thrilling fight where he landed 114 significant strikes. He also got hit with 114 significant strikes, but pretty solid fight. And Tony Kelly's doing pretty decent currently still for himself in the UFC. And he's also dating Andrea Lee, so he's doing real good for himself outside of the UFC too. But solid fight, good enough. And I think a lot of people were excited about Kai Kamaka. Then he draws Jonathan Pierce. I actually did bet against him there. He's a minus 305 favorite against Jonathan Pierce. Now, he takes the fight on like a week's notice. And he already had questionable cardio. I think that was the main reason I faded him. But as you can see with Jonathan Pierce, the guy's a stud. So way better than Tony Kelly. And yes, he loses the fight, but no shame in a loss like that. Then you get TJ Brown. So 15 media members scored that fight, and all 15 media members scored that fight for Kai Kamaka. The internet was pretty split on it. It seemed like most guys had it 29-28 Kai Kamaka. There was like 7 takedowns by TJ Brown, but it didn't do anything with the takedowns. When the fight was standing, it was all Kai Kamaka. So most definitely in another world, that's Kai Kamaka's fight, right? But whatever. He loses. It makes it look like it's back-to-back loss. Then he gets the Donny Chavez fight. Well, he actually wins 2 of the 3 rounds against Donny Chavez, but he got disqualified, or he got deducted a point for a low blow in the second. So he ends up with a draw out of the situation. Wins 2 of the 3 rounds, but loses a point. It's a draw. And then the UFC cuts him. So that's what I would like to look at as a bad fucking bounce, man. Like Jonathan Pierce is a total stud. No shame in losing to him. You likely got robbed against TJ Brown. It should have been your win. And you beat Donny Chavez and settle for a draw. And the UFC's like, yeah, you know what? That's the end of your 4-fight deal. You're out of here. So It's a tough pill to swallow as far as I'm concerned. Bellator does the right thing in scooping him up. He's only 26 years old. He's got some decent wrestling. You saw 5 takedowns against Tony Kelly. You saw him take down TJ Brown. You saw him take down Danny Chavez. He can wrestle. He's got decent boxing. His problem is his cardio. You push a pace on this guy, you can break him. And if you do eventually take him down, get on top of him, you can start to work him over and put a bit of a beating on him. The thing with John DeJesus is he's not really a grappler. He's long, he's tall, just like we mentioned, and he fights excellent off his back foot. His big wins is he beat this Vladislav Parubchenko at Bellator 244. He was a plus 450 underdog in that spot. And what he did well was he stayed to the outside, he stayed long, and he's got good volume. His cardio is okay. He's got good volume. He'll throw flying knees because of his height. He likes to throw kicks straight up the middle. But beyond that, he just jabs, circles out from the outside. Excellent game plan. And this Ukrainian Parubchenko, total fucking fraud. But he catches as a 450 underdog. Then he loses to Pico. No shame. He was a plus 665 underdog there. And everybody knows I'm a Pico nut hugger, so I'm going to give him a pass losing Aaron Pico. But then he beats John Teixeira's last time out, plus 175 underdog. So the thing about him is he's usually always is the underdog, and he fights good game plans. He stays long, he stays active, he stays to the outside. Because of that reach, he can dictate a lot of the range, and because of his volume, it looks good for the judges. He's continuously working. I guess when you think about how he matches up against Kai Kamaka, excellent. Because Kai Kamaka is so short, so flat-footed, and relies primarily on his boxing that if you can just matador this guy and stay to the outside, you'll be okay. But then part of me thinks Kai just got an unfair shake in the UFC where he should be. John DeJesus, meanwhile, is an upset specialist in Bellator. There is a big difference there. Kai, meanwhile, he's 26 years old. He still is making improvements. He does have the wrestling advantage if he's able to take the fight there. And even though cardio has been a problem for him in the past, surely at 26 years old and training at an elite level, like that has to be something that you're looking to shore up. He's having a second life here in Bellator, so it's time for him to go out there and make the damn thing happen. But, Kai's had some cardio issues trouble him in the past, and that's going to be a problem. And then last but not least, Kai's actually coming in on short notice. John DeJesus was initially supposed to fight Keone Diggs. Diggs out, Kai Kamaka in. So if he is on short notice, like a legitimate short notice, he hasn't really been training. He's not really been in camps, and he's already got bad cardio to begin with. We got an upset specialist, good volume, stays long in the outside. All this has making of bad news. Apple pie shitter potentially for Kai Kamaka. But I'm kind of a coward. I don't think I'm going to pull the trigger on John DeJesus. I know he's cashed before, and he's certainly capable of cashing again, but I like to think that Kai Kamaka is not a terrible write-off prospect. Like, did he deserve to get cut from the UFC? Well, the results weren't there, but there's still something to him. And if he realizes that, it could be very interesting. Killys Mota versus Mike Hamel. Mike Hamel's another one of these perennial underdogs, always worth maybe a flyer on. Oh, shit, he's the favorite now. It's minus 110 each side. We got an even money fight here, Killys Mota versus Mike Hamel. And again, when you have a Mike Hamel fight, it really could go either way. He always comes face forward, takes a lot of shots, gives a lot of shots, very athletic, good enough wrestling. What I didn't like out of him is, say, the Adam Borix fight. He comes forward the entire time, junkyard dog, tires Borix out, solid performance. Next time out against Usman Nurmagomedov, man, he tried to bulldog Usman Nurmagomedov on the ring, went the distance with him. Pretty impressive, really. But Usman had the better wrestling. Usman had the better striking, beat him up pretty good. That Bryce Logan fight, he does the same thing he always does, but he got tired. And I just don't know what the difference is. Like, how do you go hard in the paint against Borix? And how do you go hard in the paint against Nurmagomedov? And then against a lesser opponent in Bryce Logan, he definitely wins the first round. He looked really good in the first round. The second and the third round, greasy. And we were on him, but it was greasy. Now, is he fun to watch? Absolutely is he fun to watch, but I think he wastes a lot of energy in a lot of these movements. Everything he does is explosive. Everything he does is big. When he shoots the takedown, it's a hell of a takedown, but he doesn't have the top control to keep you down. So he burns a ton of energy exploding into this takedown, but he's not getting rewarded with it because he's not getting a minute or two at a top control. It's just big takedown, you're back up again. Well, the judges are not going to realize that at the end of the round if you're getting outstruck, and that's kind of a problem for him. Killys Mota, meanwhile, is super efficient. He's a Brazilian fighter. He's out of Teixeira's MMA and Fitness in Danbury, Connecticut. It's the gym of Glover Teixeira. And mind you, he doesn't fight like Glover Teixeira. He's only a lightweight fighter, but there is a lot to look at and say, geez, he does fight kind of similar to a Glover Teixeira. He's very methodical with his approach. He can strike, he can wrestle, he can grapple, but he seems to have good ring IQ, seems to put it well together. You look at his run, I mean, it's It's been good. I mean, he came over to the States. He was undefeated. He had no real notable wins. He beat Akira Gono, Pride veteran, way over the hill. Then he comes over to LFA. He beats Bobby Lee. That's a solid victory. You know, Bobby Lee, decent enough competitor, fights for Bellator as well. And then he gets that LFA title fight against Austin Hubbard. Starts off well, but it's a 5-round fight. And then in the 5th round, he ends up getting caught. 15 seconds left in the fight. Loses to Austin Hubbard. Bellator signs him and beats Mandel Nalo. Huge win. Leg kicks. You saw his striking is pretty good, and he loves going to that leg kick. If you try to kick him back, he's really good at catching the kick as well, turning it into a takedown. Good win over Mandel Nalo. And then it comes down to this Derek Anderson fight. So the fight was a year ago, and it was coming off a year-long break over Mandel Nalo. He's another one of these guys that only really fights once a year, which I don't love. But the Derek Anderson fight, he started off real well. I mean, he got him down in the 1st round. He did some good work. I would score the 1st round for him. He landed some nice elbows to the side of the head, stuffed all of Anderson's attempts. And the 2nd round, I don't know that he's tiring. He's definitely slowing down a little bit. He ends up on the ground. Anderson moves away. Mota tries to get up, and Anderson illegally kicks him in the head while he's on the ground. Now, he doesn't have a knee on the ground, but he has one hand on the ground. He's got one hand on the ground clear as day. Now, John McCarthy, who's a fucking idiot, is just real adamant how, wow, one hand on the ground doesn't mean you're a grounded opponent. Mind you, he wasn't the referee. He wasn't on the commission. He was just on the play-by-play. Just hate listening to him. Shit, is he bad. Regardless, it doesn't matter. They give the win to Derek Anderson. Should have been a DQ. No contest at the very least, right? And no, they completely disregarded that he was a downed opponent and gave it away. So when you look at it on paper, it's like, oh, he's coming off a knockout loss. But then in hindsight, it's not one of these fights where he got completely outclassed. It's not one of these fights he looked really bad in. So when I think about Mike Hamel, I think, okay, Hamel's going to have the pressure game. He's going to be coming forward, but he is sloppy. And I think Mota's going to have, land maybe the better eye-appealing shots. The volume could be towards Hamel, but I think the better work is going to be towards Killys Mota. Killys Mota, meanwhile, if he does get the fight to the ground, he could have some luck, but it's going to be hard taking down Hamel, who's a decent wrestler in his own right. Hamel, meanwhile, doesn't really figure to take down Mota, so let's call it it's a stalemate. Who's got the better gas tank? I would say Hamel. Hamel traditionally. Yes, he did tire against Bryce Logan, but the guy pushes such a hell of a pace. But the cleaner work is Killys Mota. So you can make a strong argument either side, and well, the line maker did exactly that, pricing it at -110 apiece. I found myself leaning towards Killys Mota. I just think skill and technique should outright win the day. But again, this is a guy that's got 2 fights in the last 2 years. Actually, he's got 3 fights in the last 3 years. He averages 1 fight a year. And you're taking on a guy in Mike Hamel who gets in there against the best guys in the division routinely. He'll take a fight on short notice. He'll take a fight on full camp. He'll take a fight up a weight class if he needs to. He very much is a junkyard dog. So he's always going to be dangerous, but I think I'm going to go with Mota. Again, this is going to be something lower on our list of priorities, but gotta go with Killys Mota. Vinicius de Jesus versus Levan Chokheli. Vinicius de Jesus is currently -125 favorite. Come back on Chokheli +105. Again, this is another fight, really could go either way. I guess we'll start with the favorite, Vinicius de Jesus. I think I'm going to take him, the Brazilian bad boy. When you look at his body of work prior, so he's another one of these Brazilian fighters that lives in Connecticut. He's a BJJ black belt. Jiu-jitsu is not great, certainly not off his back. If he's on top, he's all right, but he doesn't have a great ground game off his back. But he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but he's a banger. Guy likes to bang standing. He likes to get in your face. He likes to throw wild bombs. He likes to knock you out. And it does work out for him fairly decently. He finishes a lot of these early opponents, and then Bellator signs him, wins his debut, then he loses to Joaquin Buckley on a split decision. So that was the second pro loss. Both of them were split decisions, and Joaquin Buckley is currently in the UFC and winning fights. So not a terrible fight, to be honest with you. It's just Buckley was a better striker on that day. He rebounds, winning a couple fights for Bellator, goes to CES MMA, beats Jeremiah Wells, who's fighting Jake Matthews on Saturday, right? That's a solid win. Unanimous decision. Showed off his grappling in that fight. Showed off he has a big body, good leg kicks. Cardio checks out pretty good. So he beats Wells. He competes at the Combat Jiu-Jitsu World Championship in 2019, which is Jiu-Jitsu with strikes. It's pretty dope, man. And a lot of high-level guys. Goes back to CES, wins the CES welterweight title, signs to LFA, goes 5 rounds against Jaleel Willis for the LFA welterweight title. Lost a 48-47. So, I mean, he lost 3 rounds to 2 for the LFA title. Was a good fight. It wasn't a good fight. It was a boring fight. But it was close. It was a competitive, close fight. Could have won the fight. close fights. Dottie won the fight, had his hands up, was on the fucking cage celebrating. Just did it. But I mean, here's a guy's a CES champ. He's a two-time. He went back to Combat Jiu-Jitsu World Championship. So two-time Combat Jiu-Jitsu World Championship competitor. He's a former CES lightweight or welterweight champion. He's a former LFA welterweight title challenger. Went 5 rounds against Jaleel Willis. Got a lot of good experience. And then they bring him into Bellator, back into Bellator, because I guess he had a 3-1 record with the promotion at that point. They bring him back in. That's his last fight. It's about a year ago against Austin Vanderfort. And he had no answer to the wrestling. The striking looked okay. He was trying to get in Vanderfort's face early, use the leg kicks, pressure him, move him backwards. But Vanderfort just had the wrestling in his back pocket. Whenever he wanted takedown, he got the takedown. Whenever he got the takedown, Vinicius Jesus didn't have enough off of his back. Sure, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, just not enough off his back. So he kind of let the fight slip away from him ever so slightly, and then we haven't seen him since. So, he's probably got really low ring IQ. That's going to be a problem. He has some striking. He has some jiu-jitsu, just struggling maybe to tie it all together. When we look at Levan Chokheli, meanwhile, he had fought in scrubs in the regional scene. 0-0, 0-0, 0-1. At least the guy had fought before. 0-0, 0-0, 0-0. 1-0. Mind you, he beat those guys in 54 seconds, 57 seconds, 22 seconds, 31 seconds, 17 seconds, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. The guy was 1-2. He was experienced, that guy. 3-4. And then finally 5-0, 25 seconds, 57 seconds. Signs to Bellator. And it takes on Crutchmer, who we're going to talk about in a little bit here. But Levan, he's an aggressive striker. He's a Jordanian fighter. I mean, he's from Jordan, or from Georgia. We see a lot of them in the UFC now, and a lot of them are power grapplers. He's not a power grappler. He'd be a lot more like a Lilian Joshua if you wanted to compare him to a Georgian fighter. He's not a good grappler at all. He's a good striker. He likes to get in your face. He's aggressive. His cardio seems okay. But holy shit against Crutchmer. His takedown defense is bad. And beyond takedown defense bad, once he's on his back, he ain't getting up. It's not good to watch. Not good to watch. Very bad performance. Here's the thing against Vinicius de Jesus. Even though he's a BJJ black belt, he doesn't offensively shoot takedowns. He likes to stand and bang. And Levan loves to stand and bang. So if it's just going to be a brawl standing, it's anybody's fight. I mean, it's very much a 50-50 fight. If de Jesus fought with a modicum of ring IQ, he'd strike long enough to set up a takedown and take him down, because once you're on top of him, he's not getting back up. You just got to take advantage of that. I don't know that Vinicius is going to. So this is another 50-50 fight that could go either way. Both guys have a path to victory. I would feel that Vinicius has a better path to victory. He just got to physically go and do it instead of just having one of these fun fights to entertain the crowd. But if he sticks to his guns and does what he's good at, I think he'd be able to pull off the victory. Justin Montalvo versus Jacob Bohn. Montalvo is a minus 225 favorite. The comeback on Jacob Bohn is plus 180. I'm going to go with Justin Montalvo. You got some really low-level guys here, though. Let me just bring up my notes really quick, put some notes on some of these prelim guys. Montalvo's 25-year-old fighter. He fights out of Sarah Longo's gym in New York. They're not having a ton of success right now. And you consider Aljamain, you consider, I don't know, just the gym in particular is not having the greatest run going. But all the same, I mean, he's with world-class guys, a lot of guys that are in the UFC. Again, he's only 25 years old. No doubt he's going to be benefiting from it. He's 4-2 as an amateur. Both of his losses are to the same guy. That guy was 1-4 the first time he beat him, and 2-5 the second time he beat him. So low-level amateur losses. But again, I mean, that's what amateurs for, is to go out there and kind of figure things out. 3-0 as a pro now. All 3 wins by finish. When you look at him, he's slow. He's got slow hands. He'll throw in combination. He loves rib roasting, working the body, but it just seems like everything is very telegraphed. Like you can see it coming. But even though his opponents are seeing it coming, they're so low level, they just can't get out of the way. And when he hits you, kid's got power. I'm going to give him that. Kid's got some legitimate power, comes forward, likes to bang. He seems like he's in decent shape. He's got good, bad takedown defense, okay grappling and jiu-jitsu. If you do take him down, he's got the means to work his way back up. He's got the means to defend himself and try to, thwart off any submission attempts. If he ends up on top of you, again, good ground and pound, will decent control, will again look to maybe isolate a neck, isolate an arm. But beyond that, it's that he wants to keep it standing, beat you to the body, and just put it on you. You can find one of his fights, I think 2 fights back against Charlie Ratke online. Good fight, because Ratke goes out there early and takes him down, and he keeps working. He eventually gets back up. He tires out Ratke a bit, and every time he moves forward, he just launches 2-3 shots to the body, 2-3 shots to the body. Now Ratke's tired. Now the wrestling's not working anymore. Now he backs him up, puts him up against the cage, rib roasts him some more, and finishes him. Finishes him with a body shot, actually. There's stuff that you can like out of him, but he seems very young and he seems very green. Cool that he's on a Bellator prelim for sure, but would we trust him as a minus 225 favorite? Like, maybe not. Do I think he's the better fighter? Yeah, ever so slightly, but because he's young and green, he's not above going out there and shitting in the apple pie, letting the bright lights get to him, and this very much will be the bright lights for him. Jacob Bohn, meanwhile, he's 10-7, so he has 17 professional MMA fights. He's fought in a plethora of good guys, so I don't think the moment is going to quite get to him as much. You look at his losses, Joe Selecki, who's in the UFC, Sean Soriano, UFC, Shane Burgos, UFC, Pat Sabatini, UFC, Alex Morgan and Marc Antonio are two of the top Canadian guys at 145 pounds, like studs. And Ryan Sanders is actually a stud as well, like 25 veteran, solid guy. He's got jiu-jitsu, he's got some wrestling, he's got a little bit of striking, he's got a well-rounded game, but he's very much a journeyman. Like all of those losses that I've mentioned, those are all the notable guys he's fought. He's lost those fights. The non-notable guys, he usually wins. Now, again, he's a 17-fight veteran. He's going to have the experience, and he's not above going out there and showing a thing or two to Justin Montalvo. But what you see in a lot of his fights is that he's balls to the walls right from the get-go. Shooting takedown. A lot of them get stuffed. His technique's not great. He pushes a hell of a pace. And then in the second round, he's tired. His striking is not great. Striking defense is not great. I think he's going to be hittable. And so if he goes out there and gets the takedown on Montalvo first round, I can see it happening. Montalvo, not a great wrestler. This kid, Jacob Bohn, not a good wrestler, but again, a willingness to do it. I can see him having success in the first round. Once he tires, that's when it's going to be Montalvo's chance to just beat this guy up. Work the body, hopefully put him away. Again, when you look at a lot of the losses that Jacob Bohn has, it's once he gets tired. Once he gets tired, he falls apart. And when he falls apart, he takes way too much damage, and the ref comes in and stops it. And I think that a 25-year-old kid like Montalvo, out of a good camp, should be able to pressure him, and despite having a bad first round, should be able to rally. Now, he's minus 225 favorite, so do we want to bet a guy who's got to have to rally after probably losing the first round to win a second and third? He's 3-0. He's green. Biggest stage of his career. It does have apple pie shitter written all over it. But I'll take the shot on him. Spike Carlyle, Dan Moret. We have Spike Carlyle is a minus 120 favorite. Dan Moret plus 100. Again, Carlisle's moved his camp over to King's MMA in California. He's only 28 years old. I do expect a little bit of marginal improvements out of him. Most notably, he went 1-2 in the UFC. When you look at the two UFC fights, two of them at 145, one a catchweight of 150. He never gave a bad account of himself. I mean, he won his first fight, got a nice little knockout. And then beyond that, I mean, a fight with Billy Q. Billy Q's a stud, tough guy. He definitely wins. I don't know. All the rounds are close, to be honest with you. I thought Billy Q won the fight. Good argument that Spike Carlyle won the fight. Michael Bisping thinks Spike Carlyle won the fight. A lot of people online thought Spike Carlyle won the fight, but he didn't. And it was a good close fight against a guy that's currently holding down a UFC job, which is to be something to be impressed of. And then his next time out, it's much of the same. It's not that he's out of it. It's that Bill Algeo fights a very similar style to Billy Q. I mean, he's just got good cardio and good output. And with Spike Carlyle, everything he does is power. He's a very powerful guy. Power. When you look at his record, it does show a lot of first-round finishes. And in fact, going into the Billy Q fight, Billy's on record being like, yeah, he's a one-round fighter, don't worry. He'll beat me in the first round, and then he'll tire out. Kind of actually played out to be true. First round was close, but the longer the fight went, the more he got tired. The Bill Algeo fight, he started out good. The longer the fight went, the more he got tired. Now, the UFC releases him, and then interesting enough, he moves up. So his first fight after being released from the UFC is for the LFA. Was it for the title? No, it wasn't. But it was the main event of LFA 103 against this tough Mongolian fighter. And, he doesn't look great early, but, he gets a takedown, gets right to the back, sinks in the rear naked choke. Guy's a judo black belt, guy's a BJJ brown belt, physically very strong. And when he relies on the takedowns, he'll have some success. When he relies on the striking, he can land, just like he did against Elon Cruz, but I don't really want you to stand all that much because he is short, he gives up a lot of length, and he kind of pushes a lot of his punches and, puts a little more too much technique in there. But the ground game form, first round rear naked choke, cool. Gil Guerrero is BJJ black belt and one of the grappling coaches at Extreme Couture. His wife actually fights in PFL as well. He submits him in the first round. So it's like, okay, he actually does have legitimate grappling. Pretty solid, strong physical guy, get these fights to the ground. JJ Ambrose fight, I don't know what the hell went on. What world does JJ Ambrose kick your ass that bad in the first round? Like, he looked awful. JJ busted his face up. Spike just looked out of it. And in the second round, Ambrose starts to tire, and Spike wasn't going anywhere. In the second round, he absolutely just turned him sideways, started landing some big, nasty punches. Eventually, a right hook just completely knocked out JJ Ambrose. Ref comes and stops it. Spike's fired up. It makes him 3-0 since his UFC release. But interesting enough, those fights have been at 155 pounds. He fought Gil Garado at 170 pounds. He fought JJ Ambrose at 165 pounds. And now he's fighting Dan Moret at 160. So he's gone up a weight class, even like a weight class and a half, really, when you're talking about these catch weights of 165 and 160. But he looks better at that. He's not draining himself to make 145. And when he would drain himself, he still looked good, but then he'd get tired. Now he looks good. Maybe he's able to continue it. But first round finish, second round finish. Yeah, we can't say for certain his cardio is better. I'm just saying the results have definitely been a lot better. He's taking this fight on short notice, which is the reason why it's a catch weight. But still, it's a catchweight that favors him because Dan Moret used to fight at 145 pounds as well. Like almost his entire regional team was at 145. He too was signed to the UFC. He didn't go 1-2 like Spike Carlyle. He went 0-3. Give him a pass on the Gilbert Burns fight because Gilbert Burns. But Alex White, he won the first round against White and then he fatigued, lost the second and third. His striking is very robotic. His wrestling is not very impressive. He's got good durability. Guy's never been submitted. Been knocked out twice in his career, but it got good durability, got decent cardio. He's just not very good in any one dimension. So he loses the second and third round to Alex White. Against Jared Gordon, maybe there's an argument he could have won the first round against Jared Gordon. I don't think he did, but it was his best round. And then what happened? Well, he tired. He started getting taken down. His game fell apart. They signed him over to Bellator. He wasn't supposed to do much. I mean, against Goiti Yamauchi, he was a plus 350 underdog. In the first round, he doesn't really look good. He lands a partial left hand. It may have looked like it dropped Goiti Yamauchi, but ultimately Yamauchi landed the more effective striking, took him down, took his back, spent half the round on his back. That's a Yamauchi round. The second round, most definitely a Yamauchi round. And then the third round, kind of a dog shit round, but I think Yamauchi figured he was up 2-0. Again, if you want to look at like MMA decisions, there was 9 media members that scored the fight. All 9 media members scored the fight for Goiti Yamauchi. I scored the fight for Goiti Yamauchi. The judges didn't agree. They gave a split decision win for Dan Moret. So it was a huge win for Moret, but maybe not the most deserving. He didn't really look good in the fight. In fact, he didn't really do shit in the fight. So when I think about this fight against Spike Carlyle, if it stays standing, Spike Carlyle is the better striker. Moret just doesn't got it. He's got very little power, and he's just not going to be able to get Spike's respect. Now, what he is good at is grinding on guys and tiring them out. Spike Carlyle, on short notice especially, is not above getting grinded on and getting tired out, but he's the bigger, physically stronger guy. So if anything, he's going to be the one grinding on Dan Moret and tiring him out. This could be sloppy. It could be dirty, but I feel like it's going to go towards Spike Carlyle if that's the route that it goes down. So going to have to take the play on one Spike Carlyle. And then finally, the prelim curtain jerker, Kyle Crutchmer versus Oliver Enkamp. So Crutchmer is fighting out of AK in San Jose. He's a 2-time All-American, 2-time Big 12 champion out of Oklahoma State University, D1 program. Very solid D1 program. This guy's obviously an absolute stud. I think he started wrestling at age 6, and he won just a ton of junior accolades. I mean, it would take me 10 minutes to read out all the stuff he's won in the junior levels. And then, of course, 2-time All-American in a D1 program. That's big. 2-time Pac-12 champion. Come on. Sorry, not Pac-12, Big 12 champ. Big stuff, man. Big stuff. Now, turns over to MMA, and he's very much one of these guys that's trying to figure out his game so far. But eventually he falls in love with the striking. That's what kind of got him in trouble in his first loss against Lachinov. So the first round, he looks okay. Striking looks decent little leg kick, decent right hand. No combination striking, though. It's a lot of one and done at a time. And then he shoots a takedown attempt, but that's about it. I scored the round for him. I think a lot of people probably scored the round for him. Second and third round, he just allowed Lachinov just to back him up. He wasn't shooting takedown attempts. He's still one and done striking, which the judges don't love to see. And when his opponent starts, screaming and putting his tongue out, putting his hands by his side, it all just look good for the judges. There's a good argument that Crutchmer won the fight. Absolutely. There's also a good argument that Lachinov won the fight. More effective striking, stuff the takedowns, and there wasn't really a whole lot of takedowns. It's just a kind of a low ring IQ moment for Crutchmer. Now he goes back to the drawing board and he comes out and he says, you know what? I'm so inspired by Daniel Cormier. I'm so inspired by Khabib Nurmagomedov, 2 of my chief training partners, guys that are in the gym, guys that motivate me. I want to fight closer to that style. And so he comes out for his very next fight, and that's all he wanted to do is wrestle. He took on, as we talked about, Levan Chokheli, and the fucking guy didn't offer anything off his back. So it's kind of misleading. Crutchmer wanted to wrestle. use his wrestling, which we're happy about, but he only needed 3 takedown attempts. His top game didn't look great. It's that his opponent didn't do anything. He just lied there. And so, yeah, he won all 3 rounds. He was gassed. First round, he looks good. Second round, he's gassed, but he gets that 1 takedown and then he lays him praise. Third round, he's definitely gassed. So he takes him down 15 seconds into the round and then lays him praise him for 4.5 minutes. Like, the wrestling saved him. The wrestling looked good, but his cardio doesn't look all that good. Someone's going to eventually test him. Oliver Enkamp, meanwhile, is a karate guy. He's a karate black belt. And he's a shit-eating wild man, dude. He's really aggressive. 4 of his last 5 fights have ended in the first round. He's another one of these guys that was signed at the UFC, but fanned out after going 0-2. And realistically, he just comes after you. He's got good submissions. He's got wild and reckless striking that's effective. You saw in the Lou Long fight, he's not necessarily looking good, and then he just crashes him with a spinning back elbow that knocks him out. And it's like he just windmills his arms around. One of them happens to catch Lou Long, like, it is low-level shit, but then he comes out against Emmanuel Dawa his very next time out, takes out a Japanese necktie. So he's got some okay submissions. He loves fishing for the neck. As far as the striking goes, it's wild, but it's very, very difficult to get a read on. Very, very difficult to, see coming. And it's the one you don't see coming that usually hurts you the most. So Enkamp is live in that respect. When we do look at him in the UFC, though, his first fight with Nordine Taleb, may have won the first round, to be honest with you. Second and the third round, that's the last time we've seen him in a second or third round in quite some long time. He tires right out. Nordine shot 2 takedown attempts, easily got both of them. Enkamp, not great off his back. His next fight against Danny Roberts, he got knocked out in the very first round because he's super wild, and Danny Roberts is pretty sharp and technical. So as much as Danny Roberts is not a top-level guy, he's way too much for Oliver Enkamp. To his credit, he signed with Bellator right away, and he's gone 3-0 for them. But they utilize him a lot on these European shows. He doesn't fight all that often, and I do think he's still wild and reckless. As far as his cardio goes, if he could get Crutchmer into later rounds and use that wildness, keep the fight standing, use that wildness, Crutchmer's going to be tired. You could definitely catch him. But I can't honestly say that I think that this kid's got great cardio either. I mean, all of his fights typically end in the first round. The last time we've seen him go beyond the first round, he tired. He had a 0% takedown defense through 2 fights in the UFC. And then since then, he just hasn't had to really use his grappling, all the defensive grappling. He doesn't mind trying to take you down. It's how you're going to take him down. So is he going to take down 2-time All-American, 2-time Big 12 champion Kyle Crutchmer? No. He's not taking Crutchmer down. It's whether Crutchmer is going to tire and then fail on some takedown attempt and then get smacked with some spinning back fist. That would be the problem. And if you're honestly going to tell me, wiki cap this thing, you can't say anything, you can't look at anything, no footage, no nothing, you got a high-level wrestler versus a mid-level karate guy, I'm going to take the wrestler there. So I think that's the way this one goes. Crutchmer probably gets away with his flawed problems from this last fight, which is he doesn't have great cardio, he doesn't have great striking, but he'd be able to just by default shoot the takedown, stay on top, and have some success. And I do think he'll probably have some success here. So as far as who are your most confident picks, I don't know. I'm the kind of guy that would like to put Sergio Pettis on the top ticket because, again, I'd like to hedge out. I know some people don't really understand the whole hedge out option. If that's the case, I'm not suggesting Sergio is my most confident guy. I'm just saying at the end of the night, my tickets are still alive. Be easy to hedge out on that one. As far as actual confident plays goes, I like Jared Scoggins. I understand he's the even money guy. Johnny Eblen, but he's a 16-1 favorite. Alexander Shabliy, but he's a 10-1 favorite. I really want to love Kai Kamaka, but I feel like he could shit in the apple pie as well, just with the way John DeJesus likes to fight. Spike Carlyle should win. Kyle Crutchmer should win. Justin Montalvo should win. Those going to get a little bit greasy. So, I don't know. I don't know if I'll make your parlays for you right now. What I'd like to do is, spend the rest of the night, look at some footage again. I know weigh-ins were today. I'd like to really watch them. I just kind of skimmed over them before I did the show, but really look at the weigh-ins, make sure everybody look good. And then, I don't quite know the exact format I'm going to go with. However, I'll tweet it out tomorrow, and hopefully I'll tweet out some prop plays as well, just in case something goes wrong on the parlay side of things. And then I think, because tomorrow's the Bellator and Saturday's the UFC, so I think I might release a couple Bellator and UFC mixed ones together. But regardless, those are my notes, those are my thoughts, those are my opinions. So if it lines up with the stuff that you already thought, great, let's hit it. If you completely disagree, think I'm a fucking idiot, well, that's okay too. But best of luck, and hopefully the winners will be yours at Bellator 272 on Friday night.